texted, you going on live with Joe soon? I
Hey,
said, yes, going on right now.
yeah, we are. We just got live right now. This is Daryl Lee, and I'm Joe Hill. And you just brought up Pastor Nate. What did you say, Daryl?
Uh, yeah, Pastor Nate Wolf just texted me. He said, you going on live with Joe soon? I said, I just texted him back. We're going on right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I was gonna say is we could get Nate if Nate wanted to. I can send him a link. But I mean, he's
Yeah,
on a lot of. He's been on a lot of stuff like full time.
Even brother Rand Campbell from Flat Out Elected. That's another brother.
Oh yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love that guy.
me too. Me too. That's my brother.
He's like awesome.
He is. He really is.
I love his energy.
Yeah, that's what I love about him. You can tell the Holy Spirit is on him when he gives his messages.
Yes, for sure.
Actually, he's online right now, I believe.
Is he?
Aren't you, brother?
Yeah,
I think this brother Rand.
I have a page with the chat open, but I see Milan Stankovic, I think. Is that how you say it? Hey, there's Nate. I got to get Nate hooked up with a wrench so he can keep it clean in the chat. I think I did. I hope I pressed the right button. I didn't mean to delete you, Nate. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding. So what were we talking about right before we went on? Because we started talking about everything, it seemed like.
Oh yeah, we believe it was
those fallen angels.
Yes.
We could go over that.
That's right.
We could go over some of that. If
oh
you
yeah,
want.
let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
You'll have to tell me if I get this right. I'm gonna try to do like the screen share thing. I just got to remember how here. I'm doing it with a program, so we'll see if it does it right. Let's see. It should be. Okay, let's see here. Do you see the book of Enoch or?
Let's see. Nope. Not yet.
Okay, I got the wrong thing set up. Sorry. I hit the wrong part. There, now do you see it?
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Okay, cool. So I just had a couple interesting things to point out here that there's a lot of people that are studying this stuff like in depth. It seems a lot of people. And Parable of the Vineyard, Adam Fink, he's a friend of mine, and he's been really versed in this stuff. And actually, I have to thank him for kind of bringing this stuff to my attention. Like some of these other books I wouldn't have really necessarily gotten into if it weren't for Adam. Right. But let's see here. I'm on this. What verse was it? I had it highlighted and then I ruined that somehow. Let's see here. Okay, we'll start at verse 11, I think. So and the Lord said unto Michael, go bind, so it was Michael, go bind Jaza and his associates who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, so that'd be like the Nephilim, their offspring, when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth. Now, what's interesting about that is, I haven't done like the math or whatever, but figuring like 70 years, I think a generation or something like that. Adam came up with like, conveniently the year that 70 generations would be over about the time that we started seeing a lot of technology and a lot of, industry and stuff booming here in the world. Like, I don't know what time that would be, the 1800s and 1900s, whatever. But one thing that I think Adam might have missed is a very important part. That is, we'll keep reading here. Bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth till the day of their judgment and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever is consummated. So there's two judgments here, and the 70 generations is obviously one of them.
Right.
And then the other one will be the judgment that is forever and ever. In those days, this is the verse right here. In those days, they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. So they're still imprisoned.
Yes.
So now I just pulled up a couple of these interesting things. Now Enoch might have said something to them, to these fallen angels, that was in error. And then he was actually corrected by God himself. And what it was he was telling them that they'll be bound down there in the earth. I don't remember. I think that was in chapter 14, possibly the one before this. But so then God says, and therefore, I think this is, let's see here, make sure that I'm not misspeaking. Okay, yeah. And he answered and said to me, yeah, this is the Most High that's speaking. And therefore I have not appointed wives for you, for as this, he's talking to the fallen angels. For as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men, and from the holy watchers is their beginning and primal origin. They shall be evil spirits on the earth, and evil spirits shall they be called. As for the spirits of heaven, in heaven shall be their dwelling. But as for the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth shall be their dwelling. So that tells us right there that the angels, it kind of leaves us hanging. But when we get to chapter 18, go ahead and pipe in if you want, Daryl.
Yeah, I'm just following along with you, and I'm going through just reading along with the book that I have of Enoch.
That in the Sefer?
Yeah, well, I have the Sefer too, but I noticed quickly, and especially at chapter 80, it's been changed a little bit. And I believe that Dr. Pigeon said something about how he believed, or he put in there what I don't know, some kind of modification, but I was reading. Yeah, it does. And it's a little bit different than the separate book of Enoch that I have. Okay. And but it pretty much, it's just not in the exact same place, and it might say a little bit different, but it says the same thing. And so I'm following along with this book.
I've also noticed that the sometimes the verses are numbered differently, but they might say almost the same thing.
Exactly. That's the first thing I noticed. The exact first thing I noticed.
So actually, I've gone, like, studying it a little bit back and forth with people. We've gotten in a little bit of confusion on a few things because of the different numbering of the verses, and not in our conversations, not being specific about what verse it was or whatever. So in chapter 18, this is where it gets really interesting, because remember, let's see if I still have that open. Yeah, right here in verse 13. Now, I think this is a different number in the Sefer. It might be a different number verse, but it says, in those days, they shall be led off to the abyss of fire. And they're obviously going to be in prison there and confined there forever. Well, this is interesting. Okay, let's see here. We'll start right in verse 9 here. And I saw a flaming fire, and beyond these mountains is a region of the end of the great earth. There the heavens were completed. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire. And among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure alike toward the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss. So this is like the key to what we were just reading in those other chapters. And beyond that abyss, I saw a place which had no firmament of heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. and there was no water upon it, no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars like great burning mountains. And to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, "This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven. And the stars which roll over the fire are they which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them and bound them till the time when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years."
Right.
So one thing I want to point out is 7 stars like great burning mountains. Well, we'll get into this, why they're called burning mountains. In chapter 21, we'll get into that really quick. But it says here, this place is the end of heaven and earth. So, like, I think that is where what we would call the firmament, right there somewhere.
Right. I can agree with that. I can
Something
agree with
like that. I mean, I don't know if it's on the ground or if it's in the air.
Yeah, I mean, the scripture talks about how the firmament is attached to the earth, and how it's like a troop. I think Rob Skeeper was going into detail about how it is, and the scripture tells us that the ends of the earth. So there is, I guess, assume a limit. There has to be some kind of a limit somewhere to where that's what we get that one animated meme, Enoch or whoever that was on his knees lifting up the firmament to look above, look up. I think that might be in reference to that, maybe. I'm not quite sure, but
I think so. In this place where he is, it was a waste and horrible place, no water there, no birds. And so he was looking beyond this. He saw this abyss of fire that was, what did it say? Heavenly fire. And among them I saw columns of fire fall, so it was like bottomless. It was beyond measure, towards the height and towards the depth, towards the height and towards the depth. I think that's like a bottomless pit. But then it says, I saw there's 7 stars. So it's obviously up where the stars are. And then the angels said, "This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven." So we're obviously talking about a prison that's up there. Now this is where it gets interesting. And Uriel said, this is chapter 19. And Uriel said to me, "Here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind, and shall lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. Here shall they stand till the day of the great judgment, in which they shall be judged till they are made an end of." So that right there tells us that when they were led off to the abyss of fire, that this is the place that they were led off to. And they're going to stand there and defile mankind by assuming many different forms.
Right.
Like,
I don't know. You think it's I don't know if they've done that, or I don't know,
I think
or doing that.
I think they're doing it, but I mean, we don't know this, but to me, that's talking about the 7 wandering stars or the planets.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what are they named after? What are they named after? They're all named after
all of
false gods.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we'll get into that because Isaiah mentioned all of that. He did. He talked about molten images, and people actually it was the Lord that was talking, and Isaiah was just writing it down.
Right. Exactly. About molten images and worshiping them as gods.
Yes. I think it's Isaiah 42:17. I think is the one that verse you were just mentioning.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does say molten images, and we'd say to them, "Ye are our gods," something like that. Now we know they used to worship the sun, and I think that's in Ezekiel 8. I think you guys were talking about that on Rand's show, maybe. Or I don't remember who was talking about that. Someone was talking about that I was hearing. Okay, so I'm going to skip to chapter 21. And this kind of, it says here, preliminary and final place of punishment of the fallen angels, and then stars in parentheses. That's interesting.
Right.
I think I should probably just read this whole chapter.
Yeah, go ahead, do that.
Because it has a lot of good stuff in it. And I proceeded to where things were chaotic, and I saw there something horrible. I saw neither a heaven above nor a firmly founded earth, but a place chaotic and horrible. And there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound together in it, like great mountains and burning with fire. I got to stop there really quick. Whoops. I got to stop there because we just got to look at one really quick verse just to keep everyone interested.
I think I know what scripture you bring up.
You know which one I'm looking up? Okay.
I think.
John in Revelation, he sees, this is just kind of like just a side note, but in Revelation 8, verse 8, it says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. Wow. And actually the next verse is a star falling from heaven called wormwood, I think. Actually, we'll just, I don't want to get too sidetracked off of where I was there, but you know,
that's a good one. That's a good
one. So that phrase right there, great mountains and burning with fire, is a significant thing, because he did say that in chapter 19 also. So Enoch says it twice. And then, then it says, verse 4, then I said, for what sin are they bound, and on what account have they been cast in hither? Then said Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, and was chief over them, and said, Enoch, why dost thou ask? And why art thou eager for the truth? These are the number of the stars of heaven, which have transgressed the commandment of the Lord, and are bound here till 10,000 years. The time entailed by their sins are consummated. And from thence I went to another place, which was still more horrible than the former. And I saw a horrible thing, a great fire there, which burnt and blazed. So this is why he was calling them great mountains burning like fire. And the place was cleft as far as the abyss, being full of great descending columns of fire. Neither its extent nor magnitude could I see, nor could I conjecture. Then I said, how fearful is the place, and how terrible to look upon. Then Uriel answered me, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said unto me, Enoch, why hast thou such fear and affright? And I answered, because of this fearful place, and because of the spectacle of the pain. And he said unto me, this place is the prison of the angels, and here they will be imprisoned forever. So that is interesting. Let me pull up one other verse. Oops, we'll just go to Revelation 18 really quick. And there's a mention of a prison in verse 2 here. I'll read verses 1 and 2 in Revelation 18. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. So I'm going to try to go back to the normal thing here. There, I think I'm back. Whoops.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. So what do you think about that Revelation 18 part about Babylon the Great?
I think that's it's relevant. It's very relevant to me. It kind of brings to me it brings a little clarity to if you read Enoch, and then like in the except for Enoch is in the Old Testament. When you read that and go through it, and by the time you get to Revelations, I got the Revelations. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. Where did I hear that from? Where is that related to?" And I had to go back. And when I went back to Enoch, oh man, that's mentioned back in Revelations, So that's confirmation to me. To me, that witnesses to the other. So I don't know.
And
maybe
there's more.
Nobody doesn't see it that way. But Oh yeah, absolutely. That's not just one. It's not just one. No
And
way.
yeah,
That is it. And I was
that.
so excited.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh
Sorry.
no, go ahead. No. I was just saying that I was excited that to hear someone else see the same thing that I saw, and you seen it. You see it.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
It is.
Um,
It really is.
because it's something so amazing that, like, if you really look at what we're seeing here, is we're seeing a place that's described. We can call it a place. That is a prison for the fallen angels and the stars of heaven that have transgressed. Well, we know it's up there because Enoch saw the deep abyss. Well, that's a celestial abyss, I guess. I've never thought of it that way till more recently, but I always thought it was under the earth or whatever, and I suppose it is, because if it's bottomless,
Right.
But one of the things. Go ahead.
I've always thought, I had a couple of visions myself. Just I don't know if they're visions, but I had dreams, I guess you want to say. And 2 times in my life, in both occurrence, were at the day of judgment. And the vision that I got, I got an artist, real good artist friend, a good friend of mine. He's going to draw up exactly what I saw. And each time I saw it, it was kind of like in space. Everybody was in space, and it was pitch dark all around. The stars were everywhere, but it was a great wall, and it was one sidewalk, and everybody was standing side by side, but everybody wore white, and we kind of like glowed. But the vision that I got, I was like a vision of a drone, and behind everybody just floating, and I could see this great wall, and over the wall nobody could see it, but I could, because I was up high enough, and there was grass for a little bit, and then a bright white as far to the right as you can see. That's all the same view. And to the left where I was at, I watched people, and these 2 big giant beams, celestial beams, you can tell they were angels. You couldn't make out any detail, just their silhouette. They were super tall, and they had on the back of their shoulders looked like would be wings. But when they took certain people, one guy I saw, they had one arm, one angel was on one arm, the other angel was on the other arm. And they took him, and he looked just like a comet, or it looked like a meteor shooting through space. And he went down into the abyss, and I couldn't see any further than that. The next person,
you've seen this place. You've seen this place.
I saw, and when you described the space, I said, "Wow, that's exactly what I saw."
Yeah,
I had that dream years ago.
And actually, let me put something in the background here if I can. Let's see here. There's some interesting footage that in 1996 that they took from the shuttle as the shuttle was orbiting. Well, it's interesting because I think it's actually footage of these fallen angel spirits that they're like stars, but they're not lit up. There's no light in them, which is kind of strange. I got to find this. See if I can find this background. I'm sure I can. It's just like so there's this experiment or whatever. They were going to launch this satellite tether thing, and it had like for some reason they had it connected to the shuttle. Oh, there it is. Let's see here. Should play, I think. Okay, I'm going to get myself out of the way here.
Right.
If I can. Okay. Now this is sped up. But that right there, that line, that's the tether that broke off, and it's almost 100 miles away from them. And keep in mind that all this stuff is supposed to be moving 17,000 miles an hour. Right. But yet all these things can fly around, and they all look the same. They all look like stars, but with a with a cut in them. Like they each have like a cut. See that slit?
Right. Yeah. See that, like a pie cut.
Yeah. Now, if it like I have video, I don't think I can pull one up right now, but if you look at videos of stars, sometimes they look like that. They look exactly like that, but they're lit up. Well, these here, this is I think this could even be like a different light spectrum camera that they're looking with. Otherwise, it's just that they're coming into daylight or whatever. So it's like the lighting's kind of weird for them. I think it's actually
Right.
I think it was actually like a different light spectrum camera, like an infrared or something. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could very well be.
pretty weird footage. Figured I'd play that.
Yeah.
And they kind of
Yeah.
pulsate. Now watch this one here.
Uh-huh.
You'll see it as they zoom out here. You'll see it. It's curving, flying right around the thing.
Right.
Now watch it in the. There's one that'll appear in the center of the screen here, kind of by the tether, and it'll move up. I think it's right here. There it is. Or no,
Yeah.
here it is, right here.
Yeah.
I think. There it is. See it how it appeared, or that ain't the one.
Right. Yeah, that's not.
One of them does,
See,
and
one
it goes up, and it just turns around. So I think that, yeah. I mean, obviously we don't really know, but this is, I think, up in that prison. So, you know, a lot of people will be like to say that flat Earth. A lot of people that believe in flat Earth will say that space is just fake. Well, I used to think that. I used to think that it was a bunch of people at NASA lying, and I've learned now that I don't think it's that. I think it's that NASA's being fooled.
Well, yeah, you know what? I I had my view. I'm not gonna lie. I was quick to say space is fake, you know,
Yep.
according to what I was seeing and so forth. Yeah, I mean, but what kind of made me kind of like think a little bit about it is the story, the scripture in Daniel. I believe it's in Daniel where
Mhm.
angel was supposed to come through to give him a message, but he was in the second heaven. The second heaven would be the firmament,
Yeah.
and he said battle, and he had to call for Michael, the archangel, to help
Yep.
him. And then he came down to give the message to Daniel. So I was thinking about that too. I said, well, you know what? That could be, that might be, maybe that's space right there. It's in the firmament. It's in the firmament. That's the
It's
second heaven. The first heaven, sky.
it's like the celestial realm. It's like not even
Yeah,
the same kind of
right.
world as we're it's not like I you know, I think it's some kind of physical or whatever or material, but it's different than anything like on Earth. So if we think about that, if they did have an ISS up there, like if that was something God was sending strong delusion, if they did have an ISS up there and it was orbiting around, it's just the exact conditions that we would expect for something that goes into a different world that doesn't have any water or air or physics, you know?
Right, right. I can believe that. I can believe that.
Something like
I
that.
believe I don't think that we can actually penetrate it. I don't think we can actually break through that firmament. I believe personally, my belief in the first world, the first creation that God did, and then
Mhm.
in the after became form and void. That's where they sinned, and I think they were cast all down here, and God recreated, but this time there was a firmament made. He created a firmament on, I believe it was day 2 in Genesis, and
Yep.
where he separated the waters above and the below. And I believe that's just my belief that they're trapped here. But I believe that some of the spirits, or the celestial beings, are allowed to go to that point, but they can't go into heaven. They can't get into the third heaven, and then that's
See,
the
and that
throne of the Father.
and
And
that's yeah, that I don't think they're near that. I think that basically what they are, as I'm sorry about my screen, I'm just trying to find a different picture. Um, I think that they're in the same realm as God is, but they're the furthest from him that could be possible. Do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I don't know if it's like I don't necessarily mean like in the furthest location, but something like that, I guess.
right.
Hard to understand that world.
Hmm. I
Um,
believe that. When you brought up about the space thing, I listened to it and I was like, I can see that now. Yeah, I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a spiritual realm, and I believe it kind of gives it a little bit of credibility about what CERN is doing out there. They're trying to crack, well, they were saying trying to tear the veil of space,
yep.
rip a hole in the veil of gas. I think basically that's what they're trying to do. is I don't know, get a way to get through. But I mean, it seems like, and it sounds like the same same task that they were doing when Nimrod was trying to build the Tower of Babel. You know,
Yes.
that's, to me, they always
Yes.
go up. They try to get up, and now they're still doing it. NASA is always talking about going up, and going out into the outer space and going up. That is the second heaven. That, to me, that's what they're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do. In the process, what they did back in Egyptian time, they had them praising and giving their gods Molech and all the rest of them